research tells us that the primary grades are a good place to introduce topics outside children's direct experience. At that time, youngsters are more open and interested in things perceived as other. The kindergarten and first grade students in Ann Adams and Donna Peabody's classrooms are visiting Japan on the wings of their own imaginations. Using literature, art, and writing, they make leaps from the familiar in their own community to the faraway culture of Japanese communities and begin to compare their lives in South Burlington to children's lives on the other side of the globe.
In our K-1 classroom, and I believe in every classroom in this building, social studies does happen every minute of every day. What we're trying to help the children learn is that they are a member of a group of people. And in order for a group of people to cooperate and to get along, then each child needs to know how they can make that happen.
Some of the goals within the Vermont framework in the standards talk about community and begin with the younger child's home community and family and expanding. So by using community as something that they're definitely well aware of, it's a good springboard for talking about the other things that they need to know as they study social studies throughout their years in school. The difficulty that you run into on the younger level with these higher concepts is that so much of their learning involves hands-on. It's what they see, what they've already known, what they formulated in their minds in terms of what community is. So it can be more challenging to give them more of that global view. But I don't feel that they're incapable of doing it. In order for it to happen, I think it's very important that you use examples that the children already know about. Now, a community, Tyler, is a place where people live in the same area and they share things. So let's stop and think. What are some of the things that people share in the South Burlington community? Raise your hand if you know.
Churches.
Churches are part of a community. Micah.
Homes.
Homes are part of community. Anything else? Grayson.
School.
Schools are part of the South Burlington community. Now, I want you to when they come to school, they're leaving their family and they're going into a bigger community. And it's important that they learn about what a community is, which is social studies, that they're part of a bigger picture. So it's important to start with building that classroom community, which is social studies, and then moving into the community, which is their neighborhood, and then into the world community. I feel that children that are 5 and 6 years old are beginning to move a bit out of their ego, and they're seeing that the world is much bigger. And so this gives them the opportunity to learn about the bigger world, to be able to celebrate the differences and the similarities in the world. And we do that through social studies. Whoever you are. It's a wonderful book, Patrick. It's one of my favorites.
I love that book.
Little one, whoever you are, wherever you are, there are little ones just like you all over the world. Their skin may be different from yours. I do make that effort to break those stereotypes that children have. I think that they're confining. I think that that puts people in pigeonholes that don't need to happen. I think it's a limited view for children. And so if you celebrate what's the same, what's the common heart, what we're all about as humans, that can begin to break those stereotypes or those gender biases that children, yes, come to school with. Their hearts are just like yours.
The complexities of teaching social studies and knowing more about the world around us and the cultures around us for a young child can be confusing. We don't want to forget the steps of beginning young with children and giving them the opportunities to see that the world is not made up of just the United States of America or even South Burlington, Vermont. That there is a larger culture and a larger world out there to be celebrated and to learn more about.
Children now, as opposed to children 20 years ago when they were at this age, have a lot more access to the world around them. And so by using their imagination, I'm almost certain that the children have seen either in newspapers, on television, in movies about their expanding world. And I feel that the job is easier in terms of teaching social studies because they're more aware.
This is a map of Japan. This is where Japan is.
And Japan has a school community just like the Orchard School community. Try to think of what it would be like to go to school in Japan. We can imagine that we could be first graders in an elementary school in Hiroshima, Japan. What do you need to come to school?
You need to have your backpack ready with everything.
And what goes in that backpack? Noah?
Your shoes.
Your shoes. Now, if you were in school in Hiroshima, you would need your hat every day. You'd need your backpacks. And they have backpacks that match. So if you're talking about a comparative study between our school and a school in Japan, you should highlight those parts of their school that are significant that they already know. So then they can begin to identify with those components within a Japanese school. So begin with what they know, what's already a part of them, and work from there as your core.
When we think about a human being, a basic human being, they need to eat and sleep and rest and play. And to give children the opportunity to see that a Japanese child will eat and sleep and play and have a family. In our classroom, I have what's called a house area or a story building area where the children can go in at any point when we have our free time and play in that area. The children this year in my class have really liked it to be a home. So whenever children are in there, they're taking on the roles of a family and they're playing those parts. That to me is probably the best type of learning the children can do when they practice what they know. So when we start to study another culture, we make that home into a home that is now part of a Japanese culture. So in there, the children need to remove their shoes when they go into the house, because that's part of the Japanese culture, is to remove your shoes. And the plates and the dishes are Japanese, and there's chopsticks, and there's Japanese dolls, and there's a few Japanese toys in there. And so when the children are in the home or in the house now, they are now playing a Japanese family.
Children love to wear different hats. They love to try on a culture. How do you integrate that with the other bigger subjects? There's beautiful literature from around the world, whether it be talking about trickster tales in Japan, whether it be talking about what a fairy tale looks like, integrating that within that literacy component of your curriculum.
I really enjoy the challenge of bringing the culture of Japan to not only literacy but also to math. And in our mathematics right now, on the first grade level, we're learning to count by twos and by fives and by tens. And so we've been practicing those in English and in Japanese. In problem solving in math, I'll create a problem that will use Japanese culture in it. So it might be Yuki made 7 paper cranes and 3 of them were crushed by his little brother. How many paper cranes does he have left? And then use your numbers, your words, or your pictures to show how you solve that problem. The more opportunities we give a young child to experience the world around them. And the earlier that we give them those opportunities, I think that the concept of the entire world as a community would be easier for them to grasp as they mature in age.
Now their teachers say to them, if you try hard, you can do it. And they say that every day before they start school. If I try hard, I can do it. Is there any saying that we say as superstars? What do we say? If it's to be, it's up to me. What kind of day will it be? Learning and thinking and having fun. If it's to be, it's up to me. I think that song, quotes that they have in common, can bring about a togetherness. And it talks about tradition. It talks about belonging. It speaks to common vision. And it's a spirit type of thing that makes us feel that we're all one. Making friends, we're superstars. If it's to be, it's up to me.
As these children make obvious, elementary students can begin to build concepts by looking at the concrete elements. The point at which they begin to compare and contrast elements of concepts in different times and far-off places marks the onset of higher order thinking. There are two critically important jobs for elementary teachers: laying the foundations of conceptual understandings and setting students on the road to higher order thinking. With these in place, students are ready for lifelong learning.